All right, let's get it. This is the 49ers Report live here on Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for tuning into today's show. No matter where you are or how you're watching, we greatly appreciate your support of everything that we do here at Chat Sports. First 2 days of 49ers training camp officially in the book, so we're going to go through everything from how Trey Lance performed yesterday in day one, not as good on day two. Rising star in Charvarius Ward just turning heads as a lockdown cornerback. Also the latest on Jimmy Garoppolo. Today's show, though, it is sponsored by Mint Mobile. In this period of inflation, when everybody's trying to save cash and cut corners to free themselves up financially, Mint Mobile allows you to do just that every single month. Cell phone plans starting as low as $14 a month. If you head to mintmobile.com/chatsports, you can start saving money today. We'll put that link in the comment section and the description of this video. So, as I mentioned, a whole lot to get to on today's show. First, though, just want to hear from you. Want to give you some shout-outs. I want to interact with the faithful, the Niner gang, and the Niner Empire. If you're pumped up as you pile into the show for actual 49ers football talk because practices are in session, if you're excited that the regular season and preseason is right around the corner, I want you to type 49 in the comment section to get the good vibes flowing. Producer Trace on the ones and twos, making it all happen. We're going to have a really fun show today. Cannot wait to get to all of that. In the meantime, let's give you some shout-outs with about 100 people watching live right now. We've still been going live every single week, but it doesn't hit the same when it's the off-season in the doldrums of July, when there basically is nothing to talk about outside of rumors. So today, actual football chatter going down on the show. Jamie Bryan is here, Mike Leggett, Wet Noodle 187, Julian Rost for real, Fernando Nahar, Chualor, Shane AZ, 49ers Empire, Dwayne Lee, all showing up, showing out in the comment section. So too is Jamie Bryant. A lot of familiar faces. Cork City Community Radio tuning in from the UK in Ireland. 17th, 49, Emiliano, Jason Kenny, James also in the chat too. If you're subscribed and you support the 49ers Report, as we continue to grow, took over the channel right around the NFL draft last year, we had a little more than 30,000 subs. Now, more than 60,000. The largest 49ers News and Rumors channel right here on YouTube. Large following on Rumble and Callin. But if you're subbed, if you enjoy our content, if you're a real one, type real one in the comment section. Want to give you some shout outs here. By the way, just some more notes on what has transpired because practice did just wrap up in the shadows of Levi Stadium in Santa Clara. Trey Lance struggling a little bit on day two of training camp. 7 of 15, one interception. Was intercepted by Jimmy Ward. Didn't see him streaking across the middle of the field. Sacked several times as well. So not as good as he was yesterday, but keep in mind, no Deebo Samuel and a patchwork offensive line against a very stacked defensive line. Peeking back to the comment section right now, taking a look at the real ones, the real OGs. People are starting to pile in. Get that comment section flowing. Mr. Smith, Jamie Bryant, DHA Dukes, Dan, Fernando, K Fresh, it's Pyron, Cork City Community Radio, Joe Dog, Dwayne Lee, Brandon Brim, Julian Rost, Jorge, Sean James, all in the chat right now. Nick Garofolo saying fake one. Well, if you're a fake one, that's unfortunate for you because I live my life one way. It's to be a real one. Yo, Chase the Goat, how's it going from David Delgado? Great to hear from you and all of the Niner Empire who's watching currently. Earlier today, did do a news, observations, and analysis following day one of training camp when Trey Lance looked sharp. He struggled a little bit today, but going through the rigors of training camp against a really good defense that I think could be a top 5 unit, given the inexperience level of Lance, you got to expect him to struggle from time to time. So day one looked really sharp. So too, by the way, did Emmanuel Mosley. And I did a lot of the show focusing in on him and some of the numbers that he put up last year. Very, very impressive. If you missed that, you can catch up and get informed. First video of the day already out on the channel. Of course, you might want to watch that after our live show because this is all the freshest content. But in case you missed it, day one training camp takeaways, already covered that earlier this morning. After our YouTube and Rumble show wraps up, I hope you join me on Callin. What is Callin? It's a live interactive podcasting app, very similar to Twitter Spaces, but even better. You can actually call into the show. So here on YouTube and Rumble, we pop up your questions. We're able to answer them and get to your super chats. But on Callin, you can actually call into the show. And some of our videos go on YouTube after the fact, after we go live on Callin. So we're going to do that around 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific tonight. The link for that show available in the description of this video. Also, you see it down below, chatsports.com/49erscallin. You just got to download the app on your iPhone and your Android device. Get those questions in because we are going to be doing a mailbag today. And we also want to party. Look, I know people are continuing to hop onto the show, but this is the first time that we can talk actual Niners football on a live show in a really long time. And we're going to be doing a mailbag. So you want to get your questions answered. If you have any takes, analysis from first couple of days of training camp, then make sure you just get into the comment section. But in order to make Trace's job easier, hashtag 49ers, better yet, super chat us. $50 super chats, we're bonging beers and we're shotgunning beers. You heard it right there. If we get $50 super chats, we're shotgunning beers and we are taking some beer bongs down. So hashtag 49ers super chat. We're ready to party on a Thursday, a thirsty Thursday, right here on the Niners Report. Brandon Brim, Chase for sure, the GOAT. Appreciate you, my man. DHA Dukes. Better for him to struggle now than during the season. We've said this. There are going to be bumps along the road. And considering these practices are without pads, you're not really running the football much. So that limits the offense to a certain degree. Brandon Brim, get the beer ready. Yo, let's get the super chats popping, man. I am ready to take down some brews. So, too, is producer Trace, who's on the ones and twos, making the show possible. Trace, hop on. Unmute yourself. What it do, my brother?
Guys, it's been a minute since I've gotten to party with the Niner gang.
Yes.
I'm ready. Let's get the super chats rolling. Let's have some fun.
Yep.
Let's have some drinks, guys. Take some shots. Like, why not? Come on. It's Thirsty Thursday, like our boy Singer said.
And also here at Chat Sports, we have a Chat Sports Open tomorrow. About 8 to 10 of us are taking the golf course. And this is our basically Friday because thanks to the good graces of the bosses, they're allowing us to take tomorrow off as a company-wide golf outing. You know, I'm trying to finish within the top 3 of everybody here at Chat Sports. I've broken 90 a couple of times as I've been golfing a lot over the last couple of weeks, but don't golf consistent enough to break 80 and get into the 70s. But you're breaking 90, you're having a pretty damn good day on the course. If you're ready for some 49ers football talk, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. We are about to officially start today's show. Also, $50 shotguns and beer bongs. That is the special on today's 49ers Report. Of course, we're going to give you great analysis. We're going to pass along all of the latest news and rumors, but we want to party with the great folks of San Francisco and the entire Niner gang. I see a couple people are getting their questions in. Steven Herrera, make sure you just use the hashtag 49ers. Therefore, we'll get you featured on the mailbag. That's how we're able to just filter through all of the comments and then put them up into our system. You see what Chua Lore did? When will the rookie be ready to play? Be like Chua. Use the hashtag 49ers. Brandon, thank you for the compliment. Julian Rost is here. Steven Herrera is as well. Again, when do you think Deebo Samuel getting paid? I want to include that in the mailbag. So use hashtag 49ers. I do think it's going to happen over the next couple of days. Here's what we're cooking up on today's show. Training camp update. We're going to talk about the happenings from day 2 of practice today from the SAP Performance Center. Also, latest on Jimmy Garoppolo. Can Brandon Aiyuk be a breakout star this year? He actually lived and practiced and trained alongside Trey Lance in Southern California throughout the entire offseason. So those two trying to build that chemistry. Also a mailbag. Use the hashtag 49ers or Super Chat. Then after our YouTube and Rumble show wraps up, going to be going live for a podcast on Callin where you can call into the show. So let me take a look at the like count here. 49 likes. Let's get to 100 likes as soon as possible if you're pumped up for the Niners, if you're ready for the show to start. If you're having a good day, shoot, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and let's officially start today's show. All right, here we go. Today's 49ers Report sponsored by Mint Mobile. In a period of inflation, and everybody is trying to save money, Mint Mobile is changing the cell phone game. You may have heard of them before. It's the cell phone company owned by famous actor Ryan Reynolds, and they're offering cell phone plans for as little as just a couple of bucks per month. We'll tell you more about Mint Mobile coming up in just a few moments, but start saving money today by using that link at the bottom of your screen, mintmobile.com/chatsports. Now, 49ers training camp is officially underway. A couple of practice sessions are already in the books, and Jimmy Garoppolo, he passed his physical. He's basically away from the team, although he did partake in some throwing drills, and the 49ers are basically waiting out this market to see if an injury happens elsewhere across the NFL in order to trade Garoppolo away, because right now the trade market somewhat sluggish and slow, or they're looking for a quarterback out there for a playoff-ready team to maybe struggle, then another team could come calling for Garoppolo's services. In the case of the Houston Texans, the Texans continue to be one of the more ideal trade destinations for Garoppolo. Now, they're not one of those playoff-ready teams. They're rebuilding. They're retooling. Right now, they have a young quarterback in Davis Mills, but is Davis Mills legit? Is he the real deal? And is he going to be the franchise guy? If not, there are some ties that tie Jimmy Garoppolo to the Houston Texans and vice versa. I'll explain why Garoppolo to Houston makes sense. But he's been granted permission to seek a trade, as we know, passed his physical, completed his throwing program on Wednesday. He's excused from camp and will most likely stay away from the team moving forward, although Kyle Shanahan did say this. We're saying, go ahead. You don't have to be here. If he wants to be here, though, he can. I think Jimmy, like I said yesterday, we all talked, myself, him, John Lynch, we talked for a while, and we understand every part of the situation, and I think both sides know that each side is doing as good as we can in terms of trying to find a place to trade Garoppolo to, but if he's on this roster in week one, big financial implications at play. So, why does Garoppolo to the Texans make a lot of sense? Let's start making the ties here, and we've hit on this briefly before, but their current general manager is Nick Caserio. You see him right here to my right. General manager for the Houston Texans. And he kept Lovie Smith as the head coach, or he hired him as the head coach. He was on the staff. He made him the head coach. And there were some questions about what the Texans are going to do under this new regime going into the future at the quarterback spot. But Nick Caserio, if Davis Mills isn't the guy, he knows all about Jimmy Garoppolo. Why is that? Longtime coach and personnel executive with the New England Patriots and part of the same front office that drafted Garoppolo back in 2014 out of Eastern Illinois. Started his NFL career, personnel assistant and coach with New England in 2001. Kind of did that for a couple of years. He was like a hybrid coach and personnel executive, which is somewhat rare. 2003, area scout for New England. Elevates to director of player personnel. After that, kind of continues to climb up the ranks in that New England front office. And while in Foxborough, a 6-time Super Bowl champion, and once again, a member of the front office, and a member leading the charge of their player personnel staff that drafted Jimmy Garoppolo and identified him from a school that by no means is a collegiate football power. Now, if you think that Houston makes sense for Jimmy Garoppolo to get traded to, I just want to hear your opinions in the comment section right now. If you think it's ideal, type HOU in the comment section. If you think there's a better trade partner out there, let me know that squad. And we're talking about Garoppolo to Houston for a couple of reasons. For all of the reasons that I talked about, but also Bleacher Report putting together a pretty interesting segment, right? One trade that each NFL team should offer before the start of the 2022 season. No trades did they come up with for San Francisco. It's more for Houston trading for Jimmy G. But either way, here's what they had to say about that potential deal. The Texans have supported Davis Mills all offseason, and they've said he'll get another chance to prove himself. Houston just could be slow playing a potential Garoppolo deal, though. After all, general manager Nick Caserio served as New England's director of player personnel when the organization selected the quarterback in the second round of the 2014 NFL draft. So Caserio obviously is going to play it patient with Davis Mills, but if there are any questions about who the future quarterback is going to be, he knows who to go to in Jimmy Garoppolo. And this market, which is slow right now, can change for a couple of reasons. An injury at that quarterback spot elsewhere among the other 31 teams, subpar quarterback play, that could change and flip the market for Jimmy G. If Garoppolo ends up getting traded, or if the Niners make any other notable moves, we'll be the first channel to let you know. That's a big reason why we've been able to grow so exponentially over time. More than 60,000 subs. Love the Niner gang, man. So make sure you join the faithful family here at Chat Sports and subscribe today by hitting that red sub button. There are financials at play with Garoppolo, of course. He's not going on physically unable to perform list, but that $7.5 million injury guarantee is something that the Niners now, because Garoppolo's health checked out, is something that they don't have to pay. If he is on the roster week 1, though, he is due guaranteed money of that base salary, which comes in north of $24 million. And if he's cut, it's not really much of a financial hit for this organization, only $1.5 million in dead money. As I mentioned off the top of the show, 49ers Report, sponsored by Mint Mobile, changing the cell phone game, offering plans for as little as $15 per month on America's largest 5G network. Not only do they have to offer really affordable cell phone plans, but also unlimited talk and text, high-speed data, a mobile hotspot, and it's unlimited premium wireless plans, and your service guaranteed to really never go out because it's on America's largest 5G network. So start saving money today during an era of inflation when everybody is trying to save some cash by heading to mintmobile.com/chatsports. I'll put that link in the comment section and the description of this video. Lastly, to round out this segment, we've been waiting for Brandon Aiyuk to break out. Year 1, first-round pick out of Arizona State, was really solid. Missed a couple of games, but you saw the flashes. Year 2 was in the doghouse, was subpar to bad the first couple of weeks of the season. Then he really started to turn the corner and was a legitimate weapon for this 49ers offense from the middle part of the season on, basically after that Chicago Bears game. And Aiyuk right now, off to a good start in training camp. And that's kind of been the case. They've had this chemistry working going all the way back to the early part of the summer and the offseason when they trained together and stayed together in Southern California. So they're trying to work on that chemistry. Obviously, it's a big year for Trey Lance taking the reins as a starting quarterback, but maybe an even bigger year for Brandon Aiyuk going into year 3 as he's trying to prove that he can be a legitimate wide receiver, and at some point soon, whether it's next offseason or this offseason after that, he's trying to get paid. And he's been a consistent target for Lance throughout OTAs, throughout minicamp, and at the start of training camp. Back a couple months ago right here on the 49ers Report, we had showed you that picture of Lance and Aiyuk working out, and it looks as though in the early portion of camp, that chemistry is certainly reaping its benefits. You look at the numbers the first 2 years for Aiyuk, and like I said just moments ago, the flashes have been there. What's been the problem for him, and why is he not deemed capable of being wide receiver 1, at least yet? It's the inconsistency. It just isn't there in terms of him being a consistent performer. Year 1, 11 games played, 60 catches, which is really good for a rookie on an injury-plagued team. 750 yards, 5 touchdowns, 12.5 yards per catch. Last year, 16 games played, 56 catches, 826 yards, 5 touchdowns, and the average yards per catch went up more than 2 yards. Those numbers right there of 748, 826, very impressive for a couple of reasons. And this is a big year for Aiyuk, no doubt. 2020, he only played 11 games. Last year, he was basically in the witness protection program for the first quarter of the season and still almost compiled nearly 1,000 yards. Big year for Aiyuk because he's trying to prove, okay, am I a number 1? Am I a number 2? We're going to find out soon, especially if Deebo Samuel continues to not practice, if Aiyuk is a legitimate number 1 target on the outside or if he's more of a number 2. You ask me right now, because of the lack of consistency, I'd say he's more of a number 2. Has some wiggle, has that vertical element, which hasn't been displayed by Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a big reason why I'm excited for Trey Lance to start unleashing some deep balls that hasn't been a part of this offense, and in turn opens up everything underneath. And Aiyuk has some pretty good size and speed, just has to put it together. What do the great ones do? Consistent performers week in, week out, year in, year out. For Aiyuk, it's been a little bit too spotty for him to be a bona fide number 1 guy. With that, I ask you this, your best guesses in the comment section right now. How many receiving yards will Aiyuk have in 2022? Let me know, and appreciate all of you for rocking and rolling with us. All right, we'll give you some shout-outs here. Closing in on 200 people watching live. Let's go. Sean James, David Delgado, Niners, Giants, Warriors all day. Lorenzo Salazar, Gadget Martian, all in the chat. Got a good conversation going on between the people, too. Mr. Block Ice, good stuff by you. Producer Trace, also having fun behind the producer glass. 69 likes. How about it? We're sitting at 69 likes. You got to love it. My boy TD, he loves it. Also a reminder, Going to be going live on Call-In tonight. Make sure you join us for another live podcast, 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, chatsports.com/49ers Call-In. Can't wait to hear from you. Also, I've said this a couple of times, but for those of you just joining the show, because we can actually talk for the first time on a live about actual football with 2 practices in the books, the beers are out. Okay, we're ready to party. We're ready to have fun. $50 super chats for shotgun and beers. Trace will do a beer bong, and for any super chat, I'll be able to crack this beer. Let's get it popping. In the meantime, get you caught up on some news and notes from day 2 of training camp. Trey Lance did struggle. Wasn't a great practice for him. 7 of 15 on the day. 1 interception. Was intercepted at one point by Jimmy Ward. Just didn't see him dropping back in coverage there. Also sacked several times. Now, this is certainly a far cry from what Lance did yesterday when he played really well on day 1. In control during 11-on-11s yesterday. 5 of 7 passing in team drills. Picked up a big gain off a quarterback boot, something that has been gone from this offense. Short intermediate passes, he was certainly accurate there. And while he didn't chuck it deep, I thought it was okay because Lance has to prove that he can do some of the simple things. But as for Lance today, intercepted by Ward, sacked several times, but you have to keep in mind here, right? No Deebo Samuel practicing, and the offensive line, patchwork up to this point. Colton McKivitz, Aaron Banks, Daniel Brunskill, both splitting reps at center. It's Brendel and Brunskill splitting reps at center, Spencer Burford, the rookie 4th-round pick out of UTSA, the starter at right guard, then Jalen Moore at right tackle. So it's hard to build that continuity and that camaraderie among a unit that is missing a couple of really important pieces along the trenches there, and that's why Trey Lance was certainly getting pressured. Niners, Giants, Warriors all day, sending in the first super chat. Producer Trace will get that up on the screen. He was setting up his camera so that he can join the show as well. But we'll read that super chat, and with it, we're going to be able to cheers to the gang. I'm just going to crack my beer in advance here. Let's get the beers flowing. Niners, Giants, Warriors all day. Keep in mind, Jimmy Garoppolo can't take advantage of Aiyuk's deep threat ability because he can't throw deep. Trey should help Aiyuk get a breakout. Yeah, exactly. I literally just said that. So you and I are on the similar wavelength there. Like, Trey Lance adds a completely different element to this offense that we just simply haven't seen much of because he's a completely different player, athlete, thrower of the football, and mobile threat as compared to Jimmy Garoppolo. Want to welcome in the boy, Trace Gerard. Trace, get the people fired up, man. Why should people send in some super chats to get the party going?
Guys, so I'm sitting here, no free ads, but I'm just drinking water. Seniors over here drinking beers. I'm kind of thirsty. It's Thursday. Send in some super chats and let's get this party going, guys. I mean, I'm here to kick it. If we want to hang out, have some drinks, I'll stay all night. I'm not even kidding.
And here's the thing. Everybody here at Chat Sports, they feel the same as Trace. We're down to kick it. We're down to hang out all throughout the day. Yeah, we'll get to a mailbag coming up, too, by the way.
If we get a $20 super chat, I bet we could get one of the guys inside or out here to come take a couple shots with us.
You heard it.
Come on,
it from Trace.
Send them in.
You heard it from Trace. Do want to get to a mailbag next, so make sure you get your questions in. Hashtag 49ers, better yet, super chat. Trace, you can pop that up on the screen, and then I'm going to go through some more day 2 training camp news and notes. Get those questions in. Mailbag coming up next on the 49ers Report. Just talked about the latest trade rumors around Jimmy Garoppolo. Why a trade to the Houston Texans makes a lot of sense. Next up on the docket, going to do a mailbag, hashtag 49ers Super Chat for you to get featured on the show. You can ask me a question or spit your best 49ers takes. In the meantime, more news, notes, observations from day 2. This is a really good sign for this Niners defense. Charvarius Ward looking great, and this has been the case going all the way back to minicamp. In fact, after he signed that big deal with the Niners in free agency, giving him about $14 million in average annual value, he was so good then that when it came time to partake in OTAs, the team said, you don't need to be here, okay? Or did I get those mixed up? He was so good in OTAs that they didn't make him partake in minicamp practices because that's how good he was early in the spring. And that's continued to be the case for Charvarius Ward, really the biggest signing for San Francisco throughout the offseason. Because of Jimmy Garoppolo's contract still being on the books, they were a little bit tight on cash, but they fulfilled a position of need and an area of need, and that's that cornerback spot. Charvarius Ward is the best corner that this team has had going back to Richard Sherman, and during that Super Bowl season back in 2019, he was still playing at a really, really good level, and because of that, that Niners defense with a really good defensive line locked down in that secondary, led by Richard Sherman, they were great. They were pesty against other teams. And if Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Moseley can give this team a legitimate number 1-2 punch at that cornerback spot, on top of the fact that this defensive line is deep, it is star-powered, it has premier all-pro, Pro Bowl talent, and guys can play versatile positions, sliding from outside to inside, depending on that NASCAR package. You get pressure with that defensive line. This secondary is going to be able to eat. As I said, we're down to party on the show today. $50 Super Chats. We're doing shotguns, and we'll get producer Trace on here to do a beer bong. $20. I'll get somebody in the Chat Sports studios to take on the challenge of taking a shot. So that's what we're doing here. Do want to get to this $5 Super Chat. Dreadhead David 420. He's back. He's saying Chase bang bang, but Dreadhead, I know you'd rather say bong bong. My guy, greatly appreciate that Super Chat and the donation. Another Super Chat coming in. Mr. Block Ice. We'll hit that in the mailbag for sure. Speaking of Richard Sherman, though, in the secondary, talked about Charvarius Ward just a moment ago, but how about Emmanuel Moseley? Big Super Chat just came in. $10, Niners, Giants, Warriors all day. Okay. Skip back to that secondary, though. It's a little bit distracted with the donations coming in. You know, I was talking about Charvarius Ward. Up to this point, 2 practices in, he hasn't allowed a completion. Think about that. Has not allowed a completion, and he's been targeted a couple of times. And yesterday on day 1, it was Emmanuel Moseley who was doing really well on the outside. And in 2021, Moseley had a sensational season. Somehow he fell under the radar. After Jason Verrett went out, the 49ers were trying to figure out that secondary. They signed Josh Norman. They signed Drake Kirkpatrick. They thought maybe Mosley's more of a backup or a slot corner. They moved him outside, and he was great. No touchdowns allowed in coverage in 2021 for Emmanuel Moseley. 11 pass breakups on 74 targets. 495 coverage snaps in total, and only gave up 33 receiving yards per game. Pretty legitimate numbers for Charvarius Ward. And Richard Sherman today on Twitter, we just got done talking about him. Here's what he had to tweet. Before the season is over, there's going to be a lot of chatter about this Niner secondary being amongst the best in football. Mark it down. Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Moseley are a problem. Jimmy Ward has been playing at a Pro Bowl level for years. And look for Talanoa Hufanga to shine. Maybe Richard Sherman tunes into the 49ers report, man, because we've been saying that for a little while. Not only can this defensive line eat and get after the quarterback, it's going to benefit the secondary. And as a whole, I think this 49ers defense, led by defensive coordinator D'Amico Ryans, who was sensational for much of last year, will be able to be a top 5 unit. More Super Chats coming in. We'll get to those in our mailbag, though. If you have a question, if you have a take, hashtag 49ers, Super Chat, get those questions in. Trace, we can just get to that segment right now as long as we have enough questions that are piling in. A couple of Super Chats that we no doubt want to hit. Greatly appreciate that. 85 likes, 220 people watching live. If you're enjoying your day, having a good time hanging out on the Niners Report, make sure you hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Without further ado, though, let's start answering your questions right now. This is the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. Coming your way on today's show, a mailbag where I take all of your questions. But first, every single week following our YouTube show, as we go live every single Tuesday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific, that will be the schedule moving forward. We do a live podcast on call-in, which is like Twitter Spaces, but even better. You have an opportunity to call into the show, and we can interact. So make sure you join us every single week after our YouTube and Rumble show wraps up by downloading the app on your iPhone or Android. It's chatsports.com/49ers call in. Start off this mailbag with this Super Chat coming in from Mr. Block Ice 22. Our running backs will be the key for Trey, your running back lineup. I agree. And Trey Lance kind of struggled on day 2 of training camp. He completed 50% of his passes, threw an interception to Jimmy Ward, who we didn't see dropping back in coverage. But this is coming after a day 1 in which he looked really crisp and looked in control of the offense. And while he didn't uncork any deep balls, he was completing the short and intermediate throws. I like that. Why? Trey Lance has to prove he can do the small things and the easy things at a very good level, because the best quarterbacks in the NFL, they display that accuracy to complete the easy balls. But he struggles in day 2 with the patchwork offensive line, no Deebo Samuel. That's why if he struggles throughout camp, you shouldn't hit the panic button, because the offensive line is patchwork right now, no Deebo Samuel, and going to your point, Mr. Block Ice, you can't really run the football if you're not padded up. And this 49ers offense relies heavily on that outside zone scheme and power running football. And that will only benefit Trey Lance. Off the play action, day 1 of training camp, he was able to use that to his advantage, fake the defense out on a quarterback rollout, picked up a nice gain with his legs. You know who's not doing that? Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's part of what Garoppolo can't do that Lance can, that he can bring to this offense in addition to running the football. Now, as far as my running back lineup, you got to go Elijah Mitchell 1, as long as he's healthy coming off that knee. After that, I really don't know. Kyle Shanahan was saying that Trey Sermon looks swole and bulked up. He should be the number 2 after being a third-round pick 2 years ago. Ty Davis-Price at 3, Jeff Wilson at 4, and we'll see if they keep 5 backs. If that's the case, maybe they go with JaMychal Hasty. But as of right now, that's my best crack at what I kind of want the 49ers running back lineup to shake out to be and what I think is going to happen. $10 super chat from Niners, Giants, Warriors all day. 2 donations to kick off the bag. Keep in mind that there have been numerous quarterbacks that have lost their number 1 wide receivers and still found a way to make another wide receiver star while still managing 4,000-plus passing yard seasons. Yes, there's no question about that. You have a good point. Also, though, this is Trey Lance taking over the helm as the starting quarterback for the first time. This is his second practice as the bona fide starting quarterback of this football team. And on top of not having Deebo Samuel, the offensive line is in flux right now. And it's very, very early for a guy who still is only 22 years old, was drafted when he was 20. I've said this, I'll continue to say it. There are going to be bumps along the road for Trey, but luckily for him, he has Kyle Shanahan. He has legitimate weapons on the offensive side. Hopefully Trent Williams comes back soon to start protecting his blind side, and a really good defense. So all of the pressure won't be on Lance. And you think about what Jimmy Garoppolo did for this team back in 2019, it's not like he was chucking the ball 30, 40 times. So it's going to be a similar path this year for this offense with Lance like it was back in 2019, in the sense that you're not putting too much on Trey Lance's plate. 2 super chats, that's why I'm drinking this beer. Cheers to the gang. Let's go to Frank Gore now. If an injury happens at wide receiver, would Odell Beckham Jr. be a good idea? Last case scenario. I'd bring in OBJ for sure if there was a big injury at that wide receiver spot. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But if Deebo were to get hurt, even if he suffered one of those soft tissue injuries, which happened to linger for a long time, and he's had trouble with those types of ailments, then if he's missing 2 months, why not bring in OBJ, who when Deebo comes back can be your wide receiver 3 operating out of the slot. You have him and Jawan Jennings. Jennings gives you size, and OBJ gives you a little burst. Shoot, if Brandon Aiyuk gets injured, OBJ would be a great number 2. That's what he was last year for the Los Angeles Rams en route to the Super Bowl, and he played really good football with Matthew Stafford. So I'd say right now, Niners don't need him because this receiving core is pretty solid. Deebo at the 1, Aiyuk is the number 2, Jawan Jennings probably the 3, and then Danny Gray, Ray McLeod interchanging at those 4 and 5 spots. What do you think the Niners should do with OBJ? You want to sign him? Then type OBJ for yes. If you don't want to sign him, then type no BJ for no. Next up, it's Sean James, $5 super chat. If Lance doesn't take us deep into the playoffs this season, is he a bust? No. It's his first official season as a starter. And I know that in nowadays NFL, and especially with quarterbacks now, with all of these offseason camps, all of the resources, both with coaches, quarterback trainers, developers, coaches, and film, as well as some analytical stuff, that quarterbacks should be able to get a grasp of the NFL game within a season. But a true evaluation of a quarterback, especially a guy who you selected at number 3, you probably want to give him 20 to 30 games to see if he can be the guy. And if he clearly isn't this year, if he's just god-awful, then you have to start thinking about ways to upgrade the quarterback spot. But if he doesn't take you on a deep run in the playoffs in his first year as a starter, he will not be a bust. It kind of comes down to how he actually plays. Steven Herrera, when do you think Deebo Samuel is going to get paid? My hope is that Deebo gets paid over the next couple of days. That would be ideal. You get him on the practice field, and he starts getting in those reps with quarterback Trey Lance. And this offense, just not the same without Debo. He's so explosive on a variety of ways to his utilization. You can throw him a bubble screen, and like in the NFC Championship game, on that quick little throw out to the outside, he caught it vertical to the line, or perpendicular to the line of scrimmage, and took it to the house 45 yards with some breakaway speed. Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. That play was drawn up for him. He's able to take it to the crib, make guys miss, and then pull away from them. Like, he just does so many things to bail you out. And for Lance, that could be the ultimate security blanket on top of having Aiyuk, Kittle, Jawan Jennings, a big slot, the rookie Danny Gray, Ray McLeod is your gadget guy, and a really good running game. So hopefully Samuel gets paid soon. That way he can get on the practice field because currently he's holding in. Adrian Avila, what do you think on Cam Newton coming to San Francisco as a backup to Trey Lance? Let's see what happens with Garoppolo first. If he's on this roster week one, his base salary becomes guaranteed at $24.2 million. And I just don't see how the 49ers would pay that without a restructure. And if they trade him away, Garoppolo, or if they cut him, and let's say Nate Sudfeld maybe gets injured or struggles throughout training camp in the preseason, then you start to get a little bit desperate. And I think Cam Newton would be desperate, but could Kyle Shanahan draw some stuff up to rely on his legs because he's not a great passer and you can at least get by for a couple of weeks? Maybe, but way down the road, last resort for that. Evan Hinders with this one. Should the Niners sign Kevin King? I don't know about Kevin King. I don't really think he adds all that much. I actually think this Niners roster, outside of backup quarterback and outside of offensive line, is pretty good. For the offensive line, in terms of depth, they just need these young guys to step up. But everywhere else, I kind of like the roster, and they don't really need that many more acquisitions. I am curious here with this next question on our mailbag. We have more than 60,000 subs. Thousands of people join us. Sometimes millions of people join us every single month, depending on the calendar year. And we have people tuned in of all demographics, of all ages, and people are tuned in from all across the globe. So I want to know this. What's the first Niners game you ever went to? Share your memory. Share your best experiences in the comment section right now. I'm going to go back and chop it up with all of you to see what you all say because those memories are certainly special. Also, here on the 49ers Report, we're growing on YouTube, 60,000 subs. We're growing on Rumble, another platform that we put our content on. But also, we're growing the podcast game. Call-in is where it's at. It's like Twitter Spaces, but even better. And after our live shows every single week, we go live on Call-in so that I can take your calls. Chatsports.com/49ers call-in. Think Twitter Spaces, but even better. An opportunity for you to call into the show and interact with me as we just have an open forum conversation talking all the most relevant 49ers news and rumors. So I'm going to put those links to download the app on your iPhone or Android in the comment section and the description of this video. Mr. Macho 12, do you think the Niners will play Trey the entire preseason to allow him to get all the reps he can get? He's not going to play like every single quarter of every single game, but will he play all 3 games? I would not be surprised at all if Lance is at least in there for a drive every single game. He needs the experience, he needs the reps, and he needs to be groomed to be ready for a team that is constructed right now to compete for a Super Bowl. So if he does struggle, if he's looking a little green like a vegetable, then he's going to have to play at least a little bit in every preseason game, I believe. Dr. Jaspreet, a Super Chat legend from our watch parties last year, by the way. Can't wait to see us at full strength. Having backups out there on offense made Trey look bad today, and it has to be hard for Trey Lance's confidence. This guy has a great mental makeup, though, and this guy is, I think, emotionally and mentally stable. It's one of the reasons why I really liked him coming out of North Dakota State, because everybody was talking about him and raving about his character, how he carries himself, the work that he puts in, and the fact that he really doesn't get flustered much. Now, if an injury happens, if he's just awful and people are like, you got to bring back Garoppolo, this is awful, this is bad, this is ugly, then maybe his confidence will be altered a little bit. But you're right. Once the pads come on, it's even more paramount to have that offensive line intact and Deebo Samuel on the field and some of those other complementary weapons. Yes, great quarterbacks elevate their teammates, but also at the same time, for a young quarterback, you want him to have his full weaponry at his disposal. Chualor, When does Nick Bosa get paid? Good question, because John Lynch talked about this when the 49ers reported to training camp back on Tuesday, that contract negotiations between the organization and Debo are in a good spot right now. And both sides are kind of happy with where talks are leading. Nick Bosa, though, his deal, according to John Lynch, might not get done until next offseason. Now, yes, they're both members of that 2019 draft class, but because Nick Bosa was a first-round pick, he gets that extra fifth year. Deebo Samuel, picked in the second round, doesn't get that fifth year. So here he is going into the final year of his rookie deal with that base salary of $3.9 million. Bosa already guaranteed money in 2023, coming in at about $18 million. So a big gap there in terms of the prices and the contract. That's why the 49ers can wait until next offseason. But if he has 15.5 sacks again, like he did this past year, he might get paid more than Aaron Donald and be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, with the market continuing to explode. Speaking of Bosa, and we've talked about Lance on the show today, which unit do you think will be better? This is a pretty good question here. Offense is Shanahan's specialty, but the defense is deep, loaded, and has a lot of legitimate premier talent. Give me an O for offense or a D for defense. David Delgado is also a real one. Can Jimmy Garoppolo get cut, and can he be re-signed for much cheaper? He would be a solid backup. So basically, you don't have to do all that and go through all those loopholes. All you got to do is do a contract restructure with Jimmy Garoppolo. That would be the wisest decision for the Niners financially. You just work out a contract restructure. Now, will Garoppolo be willing to take that restructure? Maybe not to stay in San Francisco. Maybe to go somewhere else, which would make sense, because there he can compete for a starting role. But with San Francisco, he might say, you know what? Trey Lance doesn't look good. I know it because I'm still on this team. I'm in a group chat with a couple of homies in the locker room. I know what the deal is. I'm not taking a pay cut. You guys need me. Bring me back at my base salary of $24 million. He can use that to his advantage with that leverage. Shane AZ 49ers Empire. Chase, you are famous. I've been hearing your name, Chase Sr., on other 49ers podcasts. Keep it up, my brother. That's pretty cool. Shane, can you let me know who? I'm actually interested in who's shouting out the 49ers report. They might be ripping me. They might be complimenting me. But Shane, if you want to let me know, man, that'd be awesome. I can put my Twitter handle. You see my Twitter handle, my Instagram handle or my Twitter handle. It's the same, @Chase_Senior. If you want to let me know, Shane, who's been chopping it up, talking about our coverage, that would be absolutely awesome. Another question coming in this mailbag. This one coming in from Julian Ross, Niner for life. He, too, just a real OG. How does Javon Kinlaw look, and will he have an impact for our defense? So because he's coming off that ACL surgery that did happen during the season, he's really not partaking in a lot of practice right now. And I don't expect that to be the case for a little while in terms of him being a full-go, 100% burst participant, fully displaying what he's capable of. Now, we've seen the offseason clips, right? Him working on the bags, getting some boxing in, working on that stamina, which I think is really important for him so that he doesn't get gassed with that larger frame, and him doing these other, weight exercises to build some strength. But really what it comes down to for Javon Kinlaw, you can look at the guy. He's physically imposing. He looks like a more cut Warren Sapp during his prime when he was a little bit slimmer playing for Miami. That's cool and all. He needs to be able to prove it actually on the football field. And that's what it comes down to for Javon Kinlaw. If he can't prove it on the field and if he can't stay healthy, then he'll end up being one of the bigger busts for this organization over the last couple of years. Before we wrap up this mailbag, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you too can get your questions in during our live shows, and make sure you turn on those notifications. Therefore, when we go live, which is what we do when we answer these mailbags, or when we push out a video, when there's breaking news, a big report out there, we want to let you know, and we want you to be informed. So turn on those notifications and subscribe so you'll be the first one to tune into our videos. And as always, thanks for supporting the show. All right, good stuff right there. Yeah, cool. All right, good stuff. All right, Talk Jimmy G. Did our little mailbag. What's the first Niners game you ever went to? Let me know. Ricardo Alvarez, Friendly Fitness Fun, Clint Watson, Buddy Robinson, Larry Fort, Marvin Drews, Evan Hinder. Shout out to all of you for tuning into the show. Can you imagine what these shows are going to be like during the season, during the preseason when we're doing watch parties? Also, to all those super chats that came in, cheers to that once more. Your donations greatly appreciated. Trace, why don't you throw up that weigh-in? $50 super chats. We'll shotgun some beers. We'll have some fun. Trace will do a beer bong. We are going to go live on call-in a few minutes, though. So if we don't get any more super chats on our live show, then we'll just end the YouTube and Rumble stream. Then we'll go exclusively on call-in to do some more takeaways from day 2 of 49ers training camp. So make sure you get those super chats in. And for the super chats that did come in, I'm chugging the rest of the beer. More shout-outs in the comments section. Uncle Wayne, what team do you think we sweep this year? The Seahawks. They're going to be bad. I know that they've owned San Francisco, and it's driven me crazy over the last couple of years. But Russ is gone, and that team is bad. Unless they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, and what if Garoppolo beats the Niners twice? That would be something. Okay, Shane, I see what you're saying. Very good stuff. David Delgado, the year the Giants beat the Pats, I went to the regular season game when the Niners beat the Giants. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. It's all good. Joe Holman, love Jimmy Garoppolo. Romello Bell, Larry Fort. Arizona needs a reality check to check on Kyler Murray. No doubt about that. So as I said, we get some more super chats. We'll continue to keep it rolling here on YouTube as well as Rumble. If we don't get any more super chats, we're going to go live on the call-in app. We've been doing live podcasts every single week after our YouTube and Rumble show wraps up. It's like Twitter Spaces, but even better. You download the app on your iPhone or Android, and then you make a profile, and then you'll be able to call into the show. So on call-in today, going to go through really what has transpired the first couple of days of Niners training camp, then also take your calls. So here on YouTube, we're able to pop your questions up on the screen, but on call-in, you can actually call into the show like a sports talk radio show. So make sure you join me after our YouTube and Rumble show wraps up in just a few moments. It's chatsports.com/49ers call-in. Earlier, we did talk about Trey Lance and him struggling a little bit in day one, in case you're just joining us. 7 of 15, 1 interception. So he completed less than 50% of his passes. He was intercepted by Jimmy Ward. He was sacked a couple of times, but got to keep in mind, no Deebo Samuel, patchwork offensive line against a stacked defensive line. The first-team offensive line right now looks like this. Colton McKivitz, Aaron Banks, Daniel Brunskill, and Brendel split reps at center. And then Spencer Burford at right guard, Jalen Moore at right tackle. So by no means is that an ideal front. And then we know that Deebo Samuel can really just bail this team out in a variety of areas, both in the ground game, as we saw last year, and in the pass game as well. One of the positive notes continues to be this 49ers secondary through the first 2 games of training camp. Yesterday, it was Emmanuel Mosley shining, and today it was Charvarius Ward. Continues to look great. Been the case going back to OTAs. He was so good back then that the coaches said, you don't need to practice in minicamp. We're already sold that you're the guy to be cornerback 1 when we gave you $14 million per year in NFL free agency. And what's exciting about this is that not only is Ward looking good, Mosley's looking good. And this has the makings of potentially being one of the best Niners secondaries in a couple of years, on top of the fact that they're going to have time to cover wide receivers because quarterbacks aren't going to have a lot of time to throw because of this defensive line getting after it. And as far as Emmanuel Mosley goes, last year was really good for him. He fell under the radar, criminally underrated. No touchdowns allowed in coverage. 11 pass breakups on 74 targets. 495 coverage snaps in total. And he gave up 33 receiving yards per game. What's also interesting, not sure if Richard Sherman was at practice today, but he's definitely got his noties on if he wasn't there, because he said before the season, there's going to be a lot of chatter about the Niners secondary being amongst the best in football. Mark it down. Ward, Mosley going to be a problem. Jimmy Ward been playing at a Pro Bowl level for years. And look for Talanoa Hufanga to shine. Nick Bosa all over the place today. That's another takeaway from today's practice. This is also interesting. This is according to Matt Mayoko. Trey Lance said that he chatted with Jimmy Garoppolo Tuesday and Wednesday. Garoppolo's been in the building not practicing, though. And Lance said, it is what it is. It's nothing weird at all. Adds that Garoppolo was gracious throughout last year. He could have made things hell for me, and he didn't. Also from Mayoko, Deebo Samuel continues to condition on the side while the Niners and his reps work toward a new contract. Jimmy Garoppolo is taking part in his throwing routine and his physical therapy. No plan for him to practice as the Niners await a trade to offer for his services. So that's the latest on Jimmy Garoppolo as well as Deebo Samuel. Mike McGlinchey did not practice on day one, really. Did practice today. As for the quarterback play on day two, just talked about this moments ago. Lance 7 of 15, 2 drops, sacked multiple times though because of that just offensive line that right now is shorthanded. Nate Sudfeld 12 of 14 with a pick, and then Brock Purdy 4 of 6 with 2 interceptions. So each quarterback on the roster today threw an interception, but Garoppolo was chucking picks last year as well. So there's not a ton to make of that on day two. Top player continues to be Charvarius Ward along the offensive line. No Trent Williams for the second straight day. He attends a family matter. Jake Brendel, Daniel Brunskill alternating at center with that first-team offensive line unit. Rookie Spencer Burford continued to get the first-team snaps at right guard. Eric Armstead was also out at practice today. Defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans did not say why he was not on the practice field. He just was out at practice today, but not partaking in some of the drills that took place. One more call for Super Chats. You can pop it up on the screen once more. If we don't get any more Super Chats, we're going to start our live call-in show to do our podcast because there's a lot to get to from day 2 of training camp. Gonna expand my thoughts. Got a text from Mitch. Just want to fill him in with what's going on. So if we don't get any more Super Chats, we are going to shift gears to the call-in app. $50 shotguns, $50 beer bongs today. It's been a little while since we really went in with some beer bongs and shotguns. I took my shirt off for 45,000 subs. I think that was, or 50,000, I think. 50,000 subs, and waved it around my head like a helicopter. That was during one of our watch parties. Donovan West at center. You know, actually, Buddy Robinson, Jason Poe has been the guy who has surprised a lot of people so far earlier in the offseason and then now as well. We talked about him last week, top 5 rookies to watch at training camp. He's been kind of mixing and matching between that second-team offensive line and third-team offensive line going in at that right guard spot. So that right there is something to monitor. Donovan West playing backup center right now. But again, it's kind of messed up because Brunskill and Brendel right now are exchanging reps at that starting spot. So they're kind of going back and forth between the first team and the second team. So Donovan West, although he might be getting reps on that third team, it sounds worse than it is because usually Brunskill last year, he was the right guard. You would figure he's going to be the right guard, but him and Brendel both getting snaps at center. Steve Suprema, you're announcing this weekend? What are you announcing, bro? Having some fun? What are you doing? You getting into? Broadcaster as well? Okay, getting ready to go live on call-in. If we don't get any more Super Chats, we will sign off here on YouTube as well as Rumble. Last call for Super Chats. Going to start the 2-minute clock. 2-minute clock is on. We'll hang out for 2 more minutes. If we don't get any more Super Chats, we'll sign off and do our live podcast on call-in. Link is in the chat right now. If we do get Super Chats, we'll keep it a buck right here on the 49ers Report. We'll add 2 minutes. How about that? We'll add 2 minutes if we get some Super Chats. If we don't get any more Super Chats, we're going to go live on call-in. Now, we're going to start the call-in room here, and I'll give shout-outs to everybody who joins the show. The link's available right now. Mr. Block Ice, 22, signed J.C. Treader. Yeah, if Brendel and Brunskill struggle, then yes. Should definitely sign J.C. Treader. One of the best centers in the league over the last 5 years. Quick, the Carolina Reporter says Deebo contract is going to drop. Yes, we talked about that yesterday. It's available right now on the channel. Watch that if you haven't already done so. Later, Chase and Faithful from Jamie Bryant. Join us on call-in, bro. How's Elijah Mitchell doing from David Delgado? Can't really tell. I mean, they're not wearing pads. So it's hard to really gauge what the ground game is all about right now. What are your chances of getting Troy Warner, Fred Warner's brother? Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's one of those periphery roster types that the 49ers could sign at some point if he's available. More questions coming in. McAfee did a beat reporter call in and she dropped it. So she dropped the news or dropped the report? Which one was it, Steve-O? Let me know. I'm actually interested because we did talk about that yesterday. And of course, it's like, okay, who is Sheena Quick, I think her name was. Now, she is from South Carolina, works in South Carolina, lives in South Carolina. That's where Debo is from. So I thought, okay, maybe there's a little bit of a connection between her and Debo's camp. Looking for that response from Steve-O. Sometimes these comments get a little bit backed up. In the meantime, no super chats that came in, so I'm going to start the call-in room right now, and then in a few moments, we will officially shut off the YouTube and Rumble stream. Let me just get it all set up on my end. About to start this live podcast. Yes, sir. Okay, we are officially live on the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Doing a little bit of a build-up here as people get that notification. They can pile in to the call-in app. The link to join the show available right now in the comment section here on YouTube. If you want to continue to get informed and just talk some Niners football, for those of you listening and watching on YouTube right now, the link to join us on call-in is available in the chat. Going to be doing a live podcast on the call-in app for the next 30 or 40 minutes. So make sure you join us, and you can download the app on your iPhone as well as your Android. Going to work through some things right now to get all set up on the 49ers Report. Some people getting that notification, and they're coming into the show. Already some people in the caller queue. If you want to join the caller queue, you can join the show just like David, Evan, and Draco. Shout out to you guys for hopping into the caller queue. If you want to ask me a question, share any thoughts that you have on the Niners, you can hop into the caller queue as well. Definitely down to answer all of your questions and then chop it up with everybody. On our call-in segment, just going to go through everything that happened throughout 49ers training camp on day 2. News, notes, analysis, rumors, just filling you in on everything going down with this football team. So that will cover the bases on our call-in show. We're staying live here on YouTube so that people can join us. Chatsports.com/49ers call-in. Download the app, make a profile. Therefore, you can call into the show as well. It's like Twitter Spaces, but even better. We're getting set up on our end. We don't take commercial breaks because we don't take any breaks throughout the calendar year right here on the Niners Report. That's why we push out videos every single day. That's why you subscribe here on YouTube, on Rumble, as well as call-in. So I'm going to get set up on my end. Just pull up my notes here. Who said he went to training camp? Oh, cool. Jason Allen, training camp was dope. I went to it. By the way, I'm going to crack another beer to cheers to everybody who's listening on call-in, who watched our show on YouTube. Do appreciate that. Niner Gang is the best. Keep it locked for continued great 49ers coverage. 2 videos today and a live show. Hey, we do our best to bring you the best Niners content. So what we're going to do, we're going to shut off our YouTube stream. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening, depending on how you're watching and how you're listening. Either way, no matter where you are, how you watch, thank you so much for making the 49ers Report a part of your day. We're going to continue the conversation, though. You see the link down below. It's chatsports.com/49ers call-in. Going live exclusively